So again, today we are looking at the common terms in psychology, and we looked at psychoanalysis, which we said is a form of psychotherapy invented and developed by Sigmund Freud, which was defined as a theory of mental life and a method of treatment. Okay? And you remember we talked about the mind is conceived of having three structures: the id, the ego, the superego. Okay? You can stay with somebody who has a very high ego. Okay, so he does things that are not beyond him anyway. What Martin Luther King calls Dramager instinct. You know, the ego is too high. Sometimes even when it is super ego, it is very, very sad. Okay? Yeah. We can't go on with it because you can listen to the video for the last week. Now, to go on, the cognitive behavior therapy, we can say it is a form of structured psychological therapy which has been developed since the late 1960s, developing from the ideas of behaviorism and behavior therapy to emphasize centrally the role of cognitions and feelings in psychological disturbance. And we can also say cognitive learning theory is a school of thought in psychology which opposed the behaviorist view, what we considered last week, that there is a direct link between stimulus and response via the nervous system, arguing that complex learning involves the restructuring and reorganizing of knowledge and ideas by the brain. Cognitive overload. It is a situation in which someone is receiving more information than he or she can process. So we talked about cognitive last week. We have been talking about it. We keep repeating about it. It's very important because even when we come to theories of counseling, maybe on Mondays, one of the Mondays, next Monday we will look at specific participant now. We have stopped generalizing now. We go one by one. And you see that it is about thinking, okay? It is all about cognition is all about mind, and there are various types of cognition as you are seeing. And we looked at so many even theories in psychology. We shall also look at quite a number, the same, because we are doing here psychology, and when you are doing counseling theories, you still get back to some psychology. You come back to it in another way. So it's a situation in which someone is receiving more information than he or she can process. So we have to be very careful. Don't overfeed the brain. But at the same time, you cannot spare the brain so much because people say, I will not go to school. I will get mad. No. You don't get mad because of reading. That's a lie. Blame your genes or something else. You only get mad. The brain is always happy when you read. The more you read, the more brain gets happy because it is elastic. I've done, when I was doing education, Master of Science in Education, I remember we studied a course on neurosis and education. Neurosis is the teachings of the brain, and we could draw a diagram on how the brain operates, and it will show you that the more you read, the more the brain feels happy. We were looking at one former minister by name Maina Wanjigi. He has a famous son now in business called, I don't know, Jimmy Wanjigi or something. The man is old. He was a minister when we were in primary school. He was a minister during the first president. Or he was a senior man those days. He's still there. Maybe he could be hitting 100. But if you listen to Wanjigi today, the mzee, he will talk better than young men, than us all. Yet he's our grandfather or our father. Why? Because he has the culture of reading. The brain is good. The brain is happy when you are reading. It feels good, whatever the age. Or listening to arguments like the ones we hear. You will listen up to midnight. They don't know the Kai gangs. Anyone bringing critical thinking makes your brain happy. Exploring things critically, that makes the brain happy. Okay, just as funds makes you happy, like church your life makes you happy, because you also need to be excited by those funds to remain, healthy mentally. But reading doesn't make you a bad guy, it makes you better, because the brain is the only one which grows elastic and doesn't burst because of age. So it is only the best, and even it maintains memory if you give it some exercises, just like you are walking. If you don't walk, you are eating and not walking, you lose your legs, you become crippled, you all of a sudden become what we call, get stroke or partial stroke, because you are not doing exercise or walking. Similarly, if you don't read, you are fearing madness. What you do, you get it, because the brain gets smaller and smaller. You get annoyed when you are insulted by boys there. Yeah? You feel so disturbed because the brain is not big enough to wind them off and move on with your life, because it is small. Okay? You go fight them and kicking them, and when you are kicking them, they are also kicking back. So you put yourself in trouble, because you have squeezed your brain too much by not reading and making it smaller and smaller. You are not even listening to the discussion, which are calling for critical thinking and creative thinking. Even your radio, you are even crossing your radio. You are not reading newspaper. What are you doing to your brain? You are hurting it. That is hurting your cognitive absorption of things. You are hurting yourself cognitively. Okay? But again, let's talk about cognitive psychology. What is it? It is a branch of psychology that deals with cognition, particularly the process of perception, learning, and memory and thinking. So there's always thinking in cognition. So when you talk about cognitive psychology, it's all about how you process your perception, how you perceive things. Unaona mambo namna gani? Okay, how you perceive things. So that is cognitive psychology. Cognitive science is a term used for the group of disciplines that study the mind. Cognitive dissonance is a kind of balance theory proposed by one man by name Leon Festinger. The theory states that because we have a powerful drive towards consistency or consonance, if we hold two psychological inconsistent cognitions, beliefs, that is beliefs, attitude, ideas, and values, at the same time, we will be in unpleasant state of tension. So for him, if we have the theory states that because we have a powerful drive towards consistency, if we hold two psychological inconsistent cognitions, at the same time, we will be in an unpleasant state of tension. That is what is calling dissonance. And there is some truth in that. When we hold two psychologically inconsistent cognitions or issues, you are believing in is it Satan? So I don't know whether you believe you are atheist and you are theist at the same time. Surely, are we not going to be to have a crash? Yeah, you are driving, you are using your phone, you are talking on a very serious matter to your husband to be, your wife to be, on a serious matter. You are driving, and at the same time, you are actually driving, my friend, driving and talking via phone, and you are talking on an intimate issue or a sensitive or troubling issue. Are you not going to cause tension within your own system? Yes, that is cognitive dissonance. In psychology, you are creating cognitive dissonance when you are handling two important issues at the same time, and you are handling it passionately, on a serious note. Hey, my friend, you are cooking ugali and you are cooking rice, you are also cooking bread, the chapatis, you're also cooking spaghetti, my friend, and you are the only one in that house, and you have 3 kitchens, my friend. One, we don't know whether you clear the food anyway, you are wasting it. The other one, it is that you could find, some things have gone wrong in the other kitchen. Things are burning up, my friend. So that is cognitive dissonance, and it was proposed by Leon Festinger. And it proposes that we are not so much, it proposes that we are not so much concerned with actually being consistent as with the feelings that we are consistent. So the point is here, when we are not consistent, we fail. We have thinking dissonance or cognitive dissonance when our feelings are clashing with our actions. All that. When there are clashes, there is cognitive dissonance. If you use your mind in a manner that will cause unnecessary clash. So there is paraphrases. Paraphrases is apparent mistakes of behavior, like forgetting familiar names or slips of the tongue, known as Freudian slips in psychoanalytic thought. So there are these apparent mistakes of behavior, like forgetting familiar names or slips of the tongue. And you hear the President of America, the current one, was being accused of being paraphrases. We all are that, but it is not a serious challenge as such. Okay, sometimes, unless it is chronic. Even sometimes a bit of stammering can also work, because even Moses, the great Moses, the liberator, the symbol of freedom, Moses, who would lead people from dictatorship of Pharaoh in Egypt, when Egypt was a superpower before Christ, and he would lead the people to the promised land. And her sister, who was an eloquent singer, vocalist, Miriam, her sister, would lead the desert choir. We shall overcome, we shall overcome, we shall make it, and putting energy in the worn out Hebrews. So you can see that it can be a mistake of behavior. If it is too much, parapraxis can be a psychological disorder anyway, if it is too much. But some of the ones that we saw with that American president, even we did a note, the politicians were telling us, the man is sleeping in the tongue, and he's sleeping, there are rapses or something. Not much. These are just simple things. Even as when we are pronouncing some words, we may sleep a bit, but if it's not a chronic challenge, it is not an issue to worry anybody. The other one is perception. Perception, we have used it. It is English. You can use the English term, perceive. You can ask somebody, how do you perceive life? Perceive, unaona maisha namna gani? So it's now a psychological jargon. When we come to jargons of psychology, perception is psychology than even English now. It is a process by which the brain receives the flow of information about the environment from the sense organs and uses the raw materials to help an organism make sense of that very environment. Coming now to defense mechanism, we could be coming back to it many times anyway. Again, from Sigmund Freud, and we covered a bit of it in the previous lecture. Freud's term for the ways in which the ego protects itself from threatening unconscious ideas of the id or the superego, or from external dangers in the environment. We can compare it with the denial, undoing, and projection. Hata hii ingine, projection is another psychological jargon, yet it's also English. But when, for example, you are in a house of somebody, you are visiting somebody, and you think he doesn't like you, so whatever he does or she does, you think he doesn't like me. You start projecting, and sometimes bringing certain historical baggages that is not relevant because you are projecting. That can also be a disorder when you project wrongly or too much. You can project, yes, but when it becomes too much, you are overreacting. You have seen those outbursts. Umeuliza mtu swali, where are you going? Do you think I'm a thief? Do you think I'm a madman? Do you think I'm a witch? Unaona mimi mchawi? Hiyo mambo umetoa wapi? You are projecting. Huyu mtu anakuchukia. You have even developed inferiority complex. You are now acting in a superiority complex because you are bringing in inferiority. Be a gentle person. Utukanwe usitukanwe, walk the talk. Walk, keep walking. Don't try to be dissuaded or stressed by side shows. You move on. You focus on the agenda. Imagine we are all hunting one animal called gazelle or impala, and it happens that when we are hunters in the forest, the way we did in ancient Africa, we are chasing these animals for food, and all of a sudden a fox comes out instead. And you know this fox is the one which ate the chicken, our chicken. Do we go killing it first, or we leave it and follow the impala? A focused person will not go to chase the fox. You continue with the impala or the gazelle, that which looks like a goat, for food, which is good for food, for the family, so that you people not get hungry. They will not understand that you are chasing the enemy called fox that killed your chicken. Okay? They want food on the table. So if you are focused, you know what you are looking for. Not the gossips around, the comments around, the discouragement around, because you want to project too much. Akuchukia sikuchukie, hiyo ni haki yake. Na wewe wajipenda, what's the problem? You go on. If you know you are on the right side of history, you still be the crown. You be crowned with every good thing, because the same person will crown you, because he has only projection around him, around her. You have nothing to worry about. So in psychoanalysis, projection is a kind of defense mechanism whereby a person unconsciously attributes to other people's feelings he or she has, or him or herself has, but which are too threatening to the ego to admit into his consciousness. For example, passing the buck to others. Okay? You can project through passing the buck to others, blaming others for things that are simple, or you can project by being in that habit of overreacting, praying inferiority, and therefore acting superiorly. You act on the other. If you're feeling superior, you act inferior. You may even whisper because you think people should hear you, even when you are whispering. You are not shouting, you are saying in a very low tone, they can't hear. But because you have a lot of superiority, you think, I'm too big, these people should hear me. I'm a professor, a very important man. But who is not important? Everybody is important because it's a creation of the Almighty. Na ukiambiwa wewe unaita watu tumtu, unda kamtu kako wewe mwenyewe uwezi. Bure kabisa. Uwezi unda mtu yako kamtu kako, wewe ni watu unaita tumtu, tumundu, tule tumtu. Okay? No, even you talk with a lot of inferiority, of lowering even your voice, so that you want these people to ensure they should hear you. Yeah? You can't talk normally. Talk normally. That is a normal thing. Normally to everybody. Yes, you are not bigger or greater than anybody. Yes, everybody is greater to himself or herself. Yes, in his own way. Otherwise, that is it. Otherwise, you can project in very different ways anyway. By overreacting sometimes. Sometimes you steer somebody, even I know somebody, a very senior person in a conference somewhere. I said, another professor said something. He kind of criticized something. The other one thought, this professor is criticizing me. And that person went straight, left the meeting, went to, I don't know where, to his or her home to rest there. And this guy was not aware that he was talking about this person who got annoyed, because this person projected and then assumed I'm the one being attacked. What is the issue? Let him attack you, you continue with your life. He has his. We shall see who will reap more. Time will tell. Okay, another thing, because I can see we don't have all the time, is introspection. This is a process of examining and reporting on the contents of one's mind. Yes, the process of examining and reporting on the contents of one's minds. Yeah, introspecting actually ni kama kuchunguza. Introspect the matter. Don't just take it as face value. We are coming back to critical thinking. And again, when we talk about projecting, when we come to counseling theories, you find people bringing their problems to your office. I've done counseling myself, and I know people have brought problems to me. After giving them my ear, I tell them, can you just tell me the story? After listening to them very keenly, because the mistake is to appear the counselor is talking a lot that time. I may talk a lot here, not there. You talk less there. You listen more. You make them talk more. And when I listened to the person talking, I was surprised to learn the person is, I don't want to say he or she, I'm avoiding that, was actually projecting. There was nothing. My husband, my wife never talked to me the whole week. My friend, this guy came tired from where he went to look for food for you to eat. But you are making a lot of stories about this. I'll not tell the person the way I'm doing here, but I'm the way of making this person. Don't you think the job coming from Kisumu to Nairobi really was a bit challenging? Did you hear complaining that he had backaches? Most drivers have these backaches. Did you? He tells him, she or she tells me, yes. Did you find the person, was he having this, muscle drugs? And the person says, yes, I saw him using them. Which ones? He tells you, he even had this one, he swallowed it, he got water, then he took water, ate with water, he had cups. Then he also got the other one, deep heat. He trying to, apply it to his body. My friend, at the end of the day, the person knew she was only projecting. He was actually heaping ones on this other fellow. A partner, my friend, you are making this person feel guilty, and you actually have already decided and judged the person very quickly. I think we should always be slow a bit. Intellectuals are not quick to comment. They study matters, and we're having so many non-intellectuals. And intellectual is not just going to school. It is also the attitude of intellectualism that you may employ. And going to school does not mean you are learned. You could be educated and not learned, because you don't want to act in a learned way and take time to study things. And even if being insulted or anything, the first thing is to study why are they doing this, so that if you know they are doing it to survive, they are using you for you to survive, you can even sometimes let them do. You remember President Moi when these people, Churchill Life, not Churchill Life, there was this Nyengese, huyu Nyambane, they used to be called ridiculous artists who are mocking him. They really mock the president very, very badly. They would make him dance like I don't know, like a hooligan. But when president was told, can you now discipline these young men now? They have gone very far. Do you know what he told them? let the young men look for bread. Hebu wa vijana watafute mkate yao ya siku. Kama wanatafuta na mimi, unashinda gani wewe? So don't overreact, don't project. Over project, why? You put yourself in trouble because of projection. Okay. Introvert. Introvert, we know such kind of people. Introversion. According to Carl Jung, the student of Sigmund Freud, who differed with him when Sigmund Freud became an atheist, he said there is no God. Jung told him, my teacher, you are wrong. You are wrong. God is there. Don't try to tell us there's no reality. It's all this we shall consider. No. Mungu yuko. God is there. So according to Jung, is a basic personality dimension of being withdrawn, being inward looking, and passive, that is usually contrasted with extraversion. Okay? You can now be too open. Extraversion. When you come, we know you. You have come. You come with all the bangs, which is another disorder. Both are disorders. Extraversion and introversion. They are all disorders. Psychological disorder is a sickness. But these are treatable sicknesses. Some die on their own. Okay? Some do not require, the African medicine of treating COVID with these things we are boiling. No. They'll die with the time. Or they'll die with exposure and experience. But they are disorders. Extraversion. When you come, we know, you want us to know. The professor has come. Then graduate has come. Yes. The graduate has come. The only one who can play, nobody else. The only one who can talk, nobody else. The only person. The mwalimu has come. The teacher has come, nobody else. And we used to sing, the best tune belongs to the teacher. The best anything belongs to the teacher. The best in garden, anything belongs to the teacher. It can be extraversion if you are not careful, if you push it too far, and you may retire in problems if you are with your extraversion. Because if you retire, you don't get these people you run over. Yeah. Whom you run over if you are in your own house. That makes you start now suffering stress. But then an introvert is one who introverts, who remains closed into himself. Some may even die because of depression. But on the other hand, extrovert personality, according to Carl Jung again, is a basic personality dimension of openness and outward-looking sociability that is usually contrasted with introversion. Extroverts are those who extroverts. In all these things, we are trying to strike a balance for us to remain happy. If we focus on happiness, you don't have to be very rich or very poor. That's a fact we may not want to admit. Now, if you want to know the richest country on earth today, forget about European Union combined. We can talk of America on itself is the richest with over 14 trillion US dollars. With a country like Kenya with just 99 billion US dollars. America will talk about trillion US dollars. Japan may talk about 7 trillion US dollars. No, all that. But then, or even China. But if you are looking for the happiest nation on earth, it is not China. It is not Japan, which are bigger. It is not USA, which are bigger. No, the happiest place on earth is Scandinavian countries. Okay? Countries like Norway. That's where people have real happiness. They are not as rich as those people. Of course, they are not poor like us. But it is the happiest places you can live. You can almost sleep along the veranda and you don't expect an attack. You can almost walk with your money and you don't expect to be robbed. Yeah, you can almost lack a job, but you will not lack some money in your pocket. You see, those are the happiest countries we have in the world, the so-called Scandinavian countries. Those ones, the likes of Norway. What else? They are theirs. So, yes, those Scandinavian countries, they are known. So, being extrovert or introvert is not necessarily the better. None cannot be totally better than the other, but people tend to talk of extrovert as more open, a fellow you can know his problems and maybe you solve it. But I personally will talk of striking a balance between extrovert and introvert. To me, that is the way you can be in Scandinavia of happiness, in terms of you could be more happier than this extrovert or introvert, my position. Another psychological jargon that we consider, we have only 20 minutes and we should finish before 20 minutes so that one can even comment, is euthanasia. Okay? And it is the practice of mass killing, terminating a pain-filled life with a painless death. And this is the intentional killing by act or omission of one whose life is deemed not worth living. It is the intentional killing. Oh, you see, some people have stayed in the hospitals, okay, feeling a lot of pain. But people say, we will not kill this person. We will not get them out of machine. We have a lot of money. So let's retain our relative. But he's being supported by the machines in the lab, the hospital lab. If you remove the machine, he's dead. Now, there are those who say, remove it, okay, because you suffer a lot of pain, okay? That is euthanasia, practice of mass killing, terminating a pain-filled life with a painless death. Of course, there could be other definition along that line. I know there are. But for now, let us take it as the practice of mass killing, terminating a pain-filled life with a painless death. Some have called it suicide, or killing when you conduct the so-called euthanasia. There are some evangelicals argue, there is no mass killing. How can it be merciful? The work of killing is from God, not for doctors to help you die because you are under too much pain. No. That is another debate for ethicists, not for us here. We are only mentioning, after all, it's not a very major terminology in psychology here. It is for your information, so that when you hear euthanasia, we don't have somebody, a graduate, who doesn't know what that is, or you know where to start the argument. The other one is melancholic. Melancholic is a pathological extent of a melancholy mood, characterized by sadness and severe depression. So it's a pathological extent of melancholy mood, characterized by sadness and severe depression. Melancholic person is already pathological. He looks sad, introverted, lonely, left on himself. He looks depressed. You are melancholic. Okay? And involutional melancholic is a state of depression and anxiety associated traditionally with menopause and with mid-life crisis in general. Most people around 50, 55, some of them have that kind of involution, or can get involution melancholic when you are not busy, when you are idle. You don't have to be idle after 55. If you are not busy doing your farming, doing your activities, taking your children to school, even some women get partial stroke. You die on one side after children have left school. Why not before? Because you have gotten this pathological disorder called melancholic. It will also be associated with menopause, now feeling this is a different person, life is over, I'm done with life, I cannot marry to anybody, I'm done. You know, it's like you don't like yourself any longer. That kind of false and negative way of viewing oneself is very bad. but generally midlife crisis. Even some at 45 years, men, women, can suffer involutional melancholic. That psychological sickness or psychological disorder. Disorder is the one. D-I-S, and then order. It's one word. O-R-D-E-R. Order. Disorder. The normal one, disorder. Okay. Our other thing we look at as we move on to finish is the id. Id, we have heard of it from Sigmund Freud already. The ego, the id, the superego. It's one man who came with this vocabulary. Ego, superego, kujisikia. Ego iko juu, huyu mtu haezi kuja kwako, akuje kwa mtu mdogo namna hiyo. Ni governor, haezi tembea kwako. Hawezi, anajisikia sana. Ego iko juu. Ana pesa lakini anajenga na gorofa ile kubwa kubwa na hana hiyo pesa ya kufika pale. Idi iko juu. Of course, I don't want iwe kusengenya sasa. But I'm saying ego ikiwa juu sana, you are not likely to do things the way you should do, because it troubles you if you don't handle your ego and superego. You handle your ego. Okay, let's talk of id. From the Latin word for it, according to Sigmund Freud, the psychoanalyst or psychologist, the id houses the deepest unconscious drives. Either huwezi kujisikia, you are unconscious about it, which are most in touch with the biological nature of the body and is one of the three main aspects of the personality. The id is dominated by the pressure principle and causes problems for the ego when its drives are blocked. Concerning ego, tumeona nini? Id ni mtu wa ndani sana, ile you are unconscious part of you, ile mtu ambaye ni wewe mwenyewe umuelewi kabisa. Okay? But ego, literally the I, the conscious awareness of oneself. Sasa ni kujijua. And you hear us beating kifua sana. I. They know I, According to Sigmund Freud, the ego is that part of the personality closest to external reality, which holds the link between the unconscious drives of the pressure seeking id on the one hand and the internalized restrictions of the superego on the other. In Freud's view, neurosis is thus the result of the ego being unable to maintain harmonious relations with the id and the superego because of the power of the unconscious drives is too much for it to cope. So he brings in another disease called, in psychology you call neurosis, where when there is a clash between the unconscious you and the conscious you, they can't harmonize, they can't have harmony. And worst of all, when superego, that higher drive, yes, I want to be president, Mungu ameona nikuwe rais wa Kenya. Sometimes if you do it without your proper calculation, that can be called superego, because that power of conscious may go very highly, and then your ego goes beyond the ordinary ego, the ordinary ambition. You get beyond, and that can cause crash if it is not well managed. Concerning depression, the last one for today, and we will not get into details because that's one we can say more and more. Even if we have 12 minutes, I think there are quite a number of issues we may need for another day. But let me just talk about it briefly, the way it is, and then we'll start from it next week, a time like now, from next week on Fridays. Depression covers a wide spectrum of experience, from short-lived gloom to a deep, prolonged immobility of spirit and body, or a feeling of being pressed down. It is one of the most common forms of emotional disturbance, which can vary in intensity from an everyday attack to a psychotic condition of paralyzing hopelessness. Now, anxiety, dejection, and a general lowering of activity characterize it. Adults, adolescents, and children, Christians and non-Christians, Muslims and non-Muslims, Buddhists and non-Buddhists, Jainists, Rastafaris, Taoists, you can talk of Baha'ists, you can talk of all those religious groups such as Confucianism and others. I may not have them often right away, are all susceptible, or their victims can be victims to depression, because it is part of the general atmosphere of emotional pollution in which everyone lives in this world. They say the most depressed people are the crunchy and the politicians, because of the nature of work. Okay, sometimes you have the life can have a lot of anxiety, sometimes dejection, rejection, being misunderstood is a public duty. It has a lot of challenges. So you can get that depression. First it starts as stress, you feel stressed. Usikia hata kula chakula, kuongea na watu. Sometimes your mood is so down. And that's why we tell people, go to entertainments, charge your life, pay money so that you can go and listen to it and enjoy, because you need those relaxation to treat yourself. Go to swim, it will help to treat you. So all these things helps in cutting all this depression. Of course, we shall consider how to go about it. So depression can be a painful emotional illness in which the sufferer feels hopeless and in despair. He feels or she feels isolated. He feels worthless, useless, and unable to make small decisions, even deciding for simple things, even opening the TV, switching on the television. He has to come and call his son or daughter, because the person has gotten so much depressed as you work. Simple things. In some cases, it is characterized and accompanied by such features such as prolonged weeping, crio, diminished sexual interest, under or overreacting. Sometimes overreacting, sometimes underreacting, or keeping quiet when you should be talking. Sometimes creating disorders and disturbed sleep patterns, sometimes projecting too much. Ni mimi natukanwa, ni mimi nachukiwa. My friend, nani anakuchukia? Ni mimi nimesemwa, ni mimi alikuwa na kanyanga. Ukikanyangwa kwani utakufa? Amekukanyanga na maneno, kwani amekukanyanga na tingatinga ama trailer amegusita? Is it an accident? No. Yeah, there can also be disturbed patterns. Sometimes you get sleepless when you are depressed. The mood is black on walking, but this often lightens as the day wears on. The depressed person may have murderous feelings, feeling like killing somebody, murderous feelings towards others, and or entertain suicidal thoughts. Somebody can go with his car and crash a tree, or crash a forest, or crash anything, or be reckless even in driving, or anything when you are depressed. Even it's dangerous to drive when you're feeling depressed. Children show their depression in listlessness. Anataka ngari, anataka baiskeli dogo. He want to get a new dress. The child want a new pen, a new book. Listless things. Mtoto ako na depression, anaitisha kila kitu, na huwezi kumpatia kila kitu. The children will show inability to do schoolwork properly and other physical symptoms because they do not have the verbal skills with which to articulate their distress. Adolescents also express themselves in listless, purposelessness, and their depression is often the result of their search for identity and sometimes the pressure of expectations put upon them. Thank you very much. Any comment?